You're live. Awesome. We're still waiting for that. Awesome.
Good.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Now we come to live. Spinning coffee. Got my coffee here. Cheers. Woo.
Hello.
Let's do that again. Ching.
Clinky.
Cling. Hello. Oh, yes, I'm on air. Cool. Yay. Cool. It's getting the audio as well on the podcast. So there we go. Yay. I think I'm getting better at trying to set this up, and hopefully it'll get better as time progresses. Well, no, it's going to get better as time progresses. We integrate everything all at once. It'll look good. I'm getting better at
Sorry, I'm trying to share it.
And sharing. Okay. Good morning, Curtis, for being on here first live and then also being on there digital. You're in two places at once. See?
Hello.
Who said you couldn't be in two places at
Hello.
once? Hello. We're in two places at once. Okay, so let's get started. I want to just say that yesterday was pretty, I felt pretty honored. I had a guest call in on my podcast, my Podbean podcast, which was really cool, and had a conversation. And I think I'm going to start having guests on my podcast, which is really kind of cool, but that's really just the voice podcast or pod stream, so it wouldn't be like a live show. It would be live in the sense that it's just voices but no faces. Anyway, good morning. Oh, look, we have the little mama even entering in. Say good morning to the people.
Good morning.
Okay, awesome.
Good morning.
One day we'll have a whole production studio. This
halfway there.
At least we have a pretty kitchen to. Okay, anyway, let's get started. I'm going to go off on tangents or whatever. So a lot's been happening, and time is interesting at this point. But a lot in the world has been shifting and changing, and I don't know what's going on in your guys' life unless you share it. It would be amazing if you guys did share, but I can only tell you what's been happening in ours. And my life right now, I understand that there are bigger things that need to be focused on than what the people are focusing on, right? We have fires happening. We have elections coming up that's getting crazy. All these world issues that are really big issues, and people are trying to deal with them in their own ways. I deal with things at the spiritual level. So the spiritual transcendence, how do we transcend our soul into pure light? How do we use spiritual alchemy to transmute, transform, coagulate, do all these things that need to happen within our spirit in order to transcend? And I can tell you that it's been challenging because as above, so below, as within, so without. So it makes sense that all of the chaos is showing up in this world the way that it is. And really just want to say prayers to everybody, which I haven't done. And I feel like I haven't done a good job of that before we truly dive into what we're going to talk about. But prayers to the people in California and anybody who's in the midst of the chaos that's happening at this point. Just praying for them, and that they recognize that the material world is not really what matters, because material comes and goes. But really, are they nurturing their souls and their bodies to ascend into God's or into their birthright, or into their connection deeper with God? So just want to throw that out there. What's been going on with us? So Curtis like, I want to get on today. I said, okay, are you sure? Because you want to get on today. You already know it's going to be 100% authentic, real. But yes, of course, he said he wanted to get on. So he wanted to talk about anxiety and what's been going on with anxiety. And I'll just let you talk about what's been happening with you when it comes to anxiety, and what is the feeling, the sensations, why are you experiencing it? What are you experiencing with anxiety? Now that all of this is happening, now that the world is going in such a weird direction to new earth, new paradigm, what's been coming up for you?
A lot of inward work. There's certain things that have been, kind of outside of my own feelings and emotions that I've picked up. It's hard to differentiate what's mine and what's not mine. And we've been talking about that this week with all of us. what we're picking up, what we're feeling because of maybe sugar or caffeine for me, and what's being generated really out of your own thoughts, and then what you really have to just like dig deep and work through, and what's being shown to you through your triggers and through your reactions. There's work there. Through each reaction, through each trigger, I'm finding in myself that if it doesn't feel like it serves my purpose, there's work behind it. So I just get the shovel out and I start digging and digging into it, and it doesn't look pretty, sometimes. And some of these processes to try to figure out what's mine and what's not mine is the nitty gritty, is getting down to looking yourself, your light side, looking at your dark side in the mirror and understanding both parts and seeing each other as still equal, and then trying to get through what the darkness shows you. And the light shines to highlight what the darkness brings up and what the contrast of the darkness shows you. So the shadow side of the certain emotions for me have been difficult to really dig deep and search it. I could take it for the surface level for what it is, and bye, have a good day.
Love you.
I could take it for the surface level and just say, oh, everything's going to be all right, and and put it in a little bottle and put it in my pocket. And then all of a sudden, when I reach into my pocket one day to look for a certain thing that I needed, everything comes pouring out, because now I have all this stuff in my pockets and I'm burdened down because I didn't process certain things how I know serves my purpose. And it's uncomfortable. So that's basically what's been going on the last 3-4 days, really, really, really intensely, but also within the last couple weeks. The last couple weeks has been, kind of wayward, trying to understand where and when and how and why and all the fundamental aspects of it. And then really getting down to, well, how does this affect this emotion, and what memory affects this, and why is it bringing this memory up? And then, so there's just been so much inward, deep, dark work that has to be gone through now in a new heart, because I asked to master all this stuff. I wanted to become a master of my own emotions, a master of myself. So when it comes up, sometimes I'm like, why is this going on? This is so hard and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I asked for all this stuff. So, once I have to re-experience it, embody it in a new heart, and then I break it down, I analyze it at the end. Once I can pull myself out of a certain circumstance, once I can be on the other side of the thought, once I get to the light side of the circumstance and already work through that darkness to get there, it's easy. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm great. I'm better now. But when I'm in it, I'm like, freaking out, what's going on? I'm just in this tornado, and I'm like, And then
I push people into tornadoes.
I get put back down on earth, and I'm like, oh, okay, sweet. I know where I'm at again.
Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Charlotte. Good morning, William. Good morning, whoever else is on here. Good morning, Theo. Good morning, everybody. Cheers to you. Salud.
Cheers.
A couple of things that Curtis said, and we talked about this before, is first of all, boundaries. What's yours, what's not yours. I've been talking about that lately because, of course, we're in the same space, so we're seeing each other for one. And I have to see what's really mine and what's really not mine, and disassociate. And then I have to deal, like you said, deal with what is yours and understand how to go deep, deep, deep to the root of each thing. So it's like you're weeding out the issues that are coming up and arising within you, and you're taking out the weeds. You're maybe not getting rid of them 100%, but you're looking at them and saying, yeah, that's a weed. Now I can change this or transform it into a beautiful rose bush if that's going to serve you. Sometimes weeds serve us too, though. The other day I asked a question to the person on the podcast about anxiety. And here's what I love about this work. You ask a question not to entice anger or frustration. I don't. I ask questions simply to facilitate the opening of what is called a breakthrough. There's breakdowns and then there's breakthroughs. The breakthrough happens when we ask ourselves the uncomfortable questions or are in the uncomfortable questions. Now, is it right, wrong, good, or bad the way that we respond to that? No, it's not right, wrong, good, or bad. The question that follows is it serving you? And the answer is either yes or no. If the answer is no, then it would be like, how do I switch this? How do I change it up? But if the answer is yes, at this moment it is, it's like, awesome. Okay. There's nothing wrong with either answer. Here's the deal. Society has placed so much wrong on looking at the shadow side that people don't want to be okay with that part of their self.
Yeah, they diagnose it.
Yeah.
They make it a problem.
Yeah.
And they give you pills and just say, oh, you can use this crutch of depression to excuse all of your mental processes and your behaviors and your thoughts. And then they say, oh, when you get really angry, you can take this one and it'll just shut up what you're trying to process and just make you like a monotone zombie. I've experienced this. So the problem there is, oh, I'm having these thoughts, these issues that are reoccurring. And the problem for me was, oh, well, you have this problem now. You need to take this pill and, you can't do this stuff and da-da-da-da-da. And then I realized that through medically treating myself a different way, rather than putting on all of these 9 different medications I think I tried since throughout my childhood, they just shut things up, and sometimes you felt better, but the work didn't get done. So when you don't have it, you don't have these medicines, and you don't have this stuff, and you don't have everything, what do you got? You got the inside deep darkness, and the questions that you end up asking implores a deeper question that you have to ask yourself. And it's to get from that question to this question, then you have your answer. But from there to here, there's no time frame or space to where it's allocated. It's just whatever it takes for you to go through that. You have to go through that. Yesterday, it was like 10 hours for me, seriously. And it was extreme. No, I mean, now I can being on the other side of it, but sometimes it's 5 minutes. Sometimes it's really quick. Sometimes it's no time at all. But yesterday it was 10 hours of like, oh, what am I doing here? And I'm like, I don't like this. And then now here, I'm better.
Yay. I certainly hope you're better. Oh my God. It is
Hey,
Mike.
Dylan.
Hi, Dylan. It is Mike. Oh, battery's exhausted. Okay, the battery turned off on the camera, which is amazing. That's fine. Let it go. We're gonna get YouTube figured out eventually. It's okay. It's all good. It's okay. So he's like, can I fix this now? I can see you trying to fix it in your mind.
That's probably because this.
It's fine. We'll figure you two out eventually. But hey, Micadelic, are you gonna stay on here? Micadelic is one of my very bestest friends, people in the world that I've known for God knows how long. But he and I are like brother and sister, and he is. I hope you're doing well, Mike. I just love you. That's all we know.
Hello,
and cheers, and good morning, Mary. So yes, understanding your process and how to get through things. Now, shining the light on the darkness is like shining the light on the subconscious mind. It's illuminating the very things that they've told us to keep in the dark. So hide it. Don't bring it to light. But you can't change and transform unless you're putting the light in the darkness. Now, is it uncomfortable? Yes. Why? Because now we're having to look at the things that we don't want to. But here's the deal. You don't have to go so fast pace on this, right? Sometimes when I facilitate a question or ask a question, it's really, there doesn't need to be an answer at that particular moment in time. But the question itself will ignite this thing inside of individual where they start to think of something and say, well, why that? Why this? Is it really supporting me or not supporting me? The facilitation of that question is really a deeper understanding of why our subconscious is in operation and the result that the subconscious mind is giving us. Because what will happen is the program in the subconscious mind is getting a result that we typically don't even understand ourselves. We're not understanding how we're seeing the same patterns, how we're seeing the same things over and over again. Why is this continuing to show up? Well, because you're not acknowledging that the subconscious mind is playing with you to keep you trapped in time space, which is what? The three-dimensional space. And as you're trapped in the three-dimensional space, right? As you're here, then it's like you can't see past it. You're stuck here because your soul's not allowed to be opened. Why? Because you keep looking at the same thing over and over and over again, but your subconscious mind is what's in operation. When you illuminate that, you allow yourself to look at the programming in your mind. And when you start to look at that programming and illuminating it and putting light on it, shedding light on it, then now you have power with it. It never goes away, but you can choose differently.
And you can break it down. You could see the codes in it. You can see where exactly this shifted for this and how you were supposed to understand this and then walk through that and how it lays out. There's a beautiful orchestration to the whole thing that is, beyond all of our understanding.
It's a process. And I like that you said that. It's like, it was like 10 hours yesterday. I had to process one little thing. And I talked about that the other day, about the pebbles we put in front of us and we trip on them. It's like when I sprained my ankle. It wasn't a big mountain that I sprained my ankle on. I literally put my foot in a hole. It was this.
She was like doing triple backflips off these trees, was fighting bears.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, sleeping outside. Doing these nature challenges, and then one little pebble put her down.
It's the same thing. So I think that's a great analogy to look at, that we put these pebbles in our path that are so tiny. After we look at them in the end, we're like, why were we so caught up on this tiny little thing? Why did we let it spiral? And it's important. It's not that it's wrong for doing that. It's not that, people are wrong if they have a pebble. It's just tiny things. And all we need to do is just look at those tiny little pebbles. Then we allow the subconscious mind to surface. We understand what is ours, what is not ours. Now, the practice of it, it's always practice, 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 practice. Practice. That's really all it is. I've said that a million trillion times. The difference between a master, quote unquote master, which is really, there's no such thing, but master, and someone who's not mastered is practice. That's it. When you practice it, your process becomes shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And so the process of allowing yourself to go through that emotional space and allowing yourself to look deeper into the subconscious mind is critical if you want to ascend or transcend, or if you want to see your worldview, or if you want to have power with it. Basically, it's power with your shadow side. Mm-hmm. It's not, you're not denying it and taking it away. You can't do that. If you do that, you can, but the result is going to come out distorted every single time, and your patterns are going to circle like this, and you're not going to understand why. You're like a dog chasing your tail.
Right. It's the same concept of pretty much letting your failure fuel the success. So the shadow side is, more associated with things around failure and different stuff. So when you grab it and be like, oh, wow, I really failed right there. That's a pretty big negative in my life. And then you take that, you allow yourself to emotionally feel that and re-experience it. And then you take that emotion and transmute it. and then it works for your purpose afterwards.
Yeah, it's the greatest one that I like to talk about is rejection and acceptance. Like for me, those fuel me big time.
Same.
I love rejection. It's like my favorite feeling. And people are like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I'm like, reject me, because when you reject me, you fuel my fire. You're giving me the divine will to push forward even harder. Some people aren't wired that way. I'm wired that way. Other people have different ways of using their harnessing their power and their energy. Mine is just acceptance and rejection and acceptance and rejection. And the more that I'm rejected, the more that I accept myself internally, and the more I drive myself to get the result that I want. Like, you can't tell me no. Who are you to tell me that I can't
You
do
don't
this?
tell me.
You don't tell me. That's me. And I'm gonna, Mike Adelic, I don't know if you're still on here, but Mike knows better than anybody that I'm like that. Drive him crazy, I'm sure.
Hey, Dylan.
And I like weirdos. Is that what he said?
Weeds.
Oh, I like weeds. I thought he said weirdos. Well, we're weirdos, so there. I hope you like weirdos too. You like weeds? Okay, so if you like weeds and they're serving you, cool. Again, no right, wrong, good or bad. The question is really entices triggers for people. Also, I can tell you like this. All this point, I feel like
Bane.
Okay, why can't I see it? Okay, I am one with the darkness. Okay, that's good. And you should be, because the darkness itself is there. It's part of the duality that we're visualizing here. Does that mean that that's what that's what it is? No, it's just part of the whole. And if you don't accept this part of it, you're not accepting the whole. And if you don't accept the whole, you can never find the whole within yourself, right? You can never find that holistic part of yourself. You can never come to the one and the many and the many and the one without it. There's no way.
I mean, Dylan knows the part of my darkness from back when I used to be, unbearable, and for real, and with all the sadness and sorrow that I let fuel, and more of the problem was like the crutch that I used. Oh, I'm allowed to feel like this because I have these problems, so deal with it. Here's the door. This is me. If you like it, here. If not, there. And it was very enabling to myself to not, deal with my own shit. But at that point in time, I had no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
It was literally ignorance. And I just couldn't do it in a healthy manner up until when, I figured trying to research things more of a natural way and not, because my body was rejecting all of these, like, medical type procedural stuff and everything, and I started doing it naturally. And
natural law. Listen, natural law is the highest form of law. That is God's law. And when we surrender to natural law, we start to heal the very essence of who we are. Now, do you have to? No. It's merely a suggestion. Everything is suggestive. The choice becomes yours. And that's another sort of topic that goes into that we've been discussing, is the free will, and also so determinism or atheism, and how do we find the middle between the both? Because some things are predetermined, but the choices to get to that predetermination are ours. And it could be painful or it could be easy. How do you choose to go through this? You can choose the darkness and you can choose to put those things in your path, and that's fine. Okay. Or you can choose to look at the darkness and work with it in the light. So there's different ways that you can maneuver through it. And it's totally up to you. I would hope that, and I would almost guarantee that 99% of the population wants to ascend and wants to be happy and wants to feel harmony and peace. And then there's a few that don't really care about that, truly don't care. And that's okay too. Okay. Oh, we used to G word.
Oh, we used the G word. I'm out. or whatever.
What's the
It's just an
G word?
adjective.
What
God.
G word? Oh, God. Oh,
It's just
universe.
an adjective.
I'm out.
That's just how
Oh.
these avatars understand the energy
Sure.
around it. It's not to be, if that's there's work there if that's that much of a
trigger.
So for me, I used to do the same, especially on, I didn't understand it. So when I was going through all this universe stuff and understanding ego, she'd be like, God, God, God. And I'm coming out of like a weird Christianity relationship. And it's not necessarily that it was wrong. It's just I didn't understand certain things and certain things weren't working for me. So it was just like, I used a different adjective then. And then there was less triggers around it from me, and that served my purpose. Wasn't right for everyone, but that's okay. If I wanted to call, my dog, he's my dog, then that means God to me, or universe, or flow, or whatever. It's just whatever's comfortable for me. It's like, that's it.
Yeah, and I like that idea because there's a lot of triggers around the word God, and I have triggers around it. It's kind of funny. So I'll tell you, I don't know if Dylan's still on here, but I was reading A Course in Miracles, which I love that book, A Course in Miracles. And like at the time, I was mad at the word God. I was like, no, it's not. What do you mean God? Why? Because in the context of here, God is masculine in form. But we know, God is not a form. We can't say God is feminine. We're too tiny to even understand what that concept is. But I was really upset. And I'm like, if anything, God's a woman, right? I was at that point in my life where I was like, this and that. And so I started striking out the word God. And he, and he, and he, God and he, God and he. I was striking out the word and saying universe or whatever. And so I understood, but here's what I understood about the word God. And this is why I use the word God, and it's fine. It's just an easy term for me to use. Now, your perception of what that is yours alone. So, and if you have triggers, you can use other words as well, like Curtis was saying. But I circled back to the word God, and I'll tell you why. Because, and he, God and he, I use those words. Why? Because if we looked at it from the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine has no form. It's formless. It's a hole. It's flowy. It's a black hole. It's the shadow side. It could even be the darkness, right? Now, when something materializes to a point, so if we looked at God and the symbolism of God, it's actually a point, right? In hieroglyphics, it's just a point. Because at the point that God came into existence, it became masculine. When you put a point somewhere, it becomes masculine. That's why God is he. That's why as soon as you put a word to something, it becomes masculine. So the fact that we are articulating the expression of what we call God in this time space or in this dimensional space, it becomes a masculine thing.
Right.
Not that God is masculine. Not that God is whatever. God, we don't even know. I don't even know.
Just the sense of speaking or trying to record it. It's output of an expression, which is in the throat chakra. It's a masculine energy. Right. Receiving information is the feminine energy. So the understanding of it is feminine. But the moment that we try to express it, it becomes masculine just by the vibration of expression.
Right. And so that is why I was okay with taking the word God and he. But to get to that and explain that to somebody, right? Mostly they have their own ideas and perceptions, and it's okay. My worldview is my worldview. Don't have to take that worldview on. In other words, your connection, your relationship with God or the universe or whatever is yours and yours alone. You don't need to justify your relationship with God to anybody, period. You can if you want to. But those are private moments that we have internally with something that's grander than we are. There is something at play that's greater than we are. There's no way that you can't deny. You say science, and I don't care what you call it. It's greater than we didn't make ourselves. I did not make myself.
Dylan, if you want, message me, and I think you'd be interested in some of the off the wall kind of new information and theories that I've been, studying and researching under some of this stuff that might help you find comfort in just that it doesn't have to be so specific, or, that things don't even have to necessarily be described in an adjective.
Sure.
It's just, we can talk about a certain aspect of things in a non-conformative way.
Sure. And I literally don't when I say God, my understanding of what God is, I don't want to say this.
I have a very Southern Baptist programmed version of what I've perceived God to be in my life. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's made me what I am today, but it's very
different from mine.
Yeah. The more that I'm understanding, the easier it becomes. That it's not.
There are no
words. It's flow.
Yeah.
It's being in the flow is more of an experience of the universe and God, rather than following this and not doing that, and eating this and praying before. All that stuff. Just being in flow is experiencing God more than what I have come to understand in any building a religious concept of man.
Yeah. And in that space, you don't give a shit about words. Sorry,
doesn't matter.
Excuse my language.
You can't explain it.
Yeah, there's no words. And we're just putting words on things to describe the experience that we're having, because literally everybody, so if we looked at it this way, everybody that's on here right now, okay, has their own unique experience of this world. Your perception, and we know this, you guys know this, your perception is not the same as everybody else's, because you're seeing it through your lenses, okay? And the way that you're seeing it could be like a projection coming from maybe a camera that's looking out, okay? But your camera has a different filter. It might have a different adjustments on it, whatever it is, and your perception is just looking different, okay?
The angle you see is this way.
Yeah.
The angle somebody else sees is this way.
Right.
So they're
and this
seeing
way,
different
and this
colors, different things than that you're seeing the same thing.
And different prisms, right. And the way that we think about them, we can only communicate the experience through the words that we have understood to describe the experience. So when we think about logos, words, and we think about hieroglyphics and spells and writing and communicating, literally we're trying to communicate the experience that's happening internally through our lens. That's unique to you. Your unique fingerprint is different than my fingerprint. The experience that I have is going to be uniquely different from the experience that you have. It's not going to be the same.
And that's why it's so important when she started introducing me to these certain coaching concepts that you can't answer someone. You can ask questions to implore more questions for the person, more answers for that person to find themselves, but it's their perspective. It's their angle. So when you try to mold another person to a different perspective, it doesn't fit right. And it doesn't align. You don't feel completely aligned when you're trying to gain a completely other perspective's molding, and you're not supposed to fit into that molding. You might just be able to understand the concept of their perspective, or walk in their shoes, or try to, put yourself in their position to embody the experience, but you cannot mold someone else's perspective and path for their life into yours if it doesn't serve your purpose. And if it's not going. So it's trying to change people isn't the thing. It's not, oh, this is broke. This is the broken human. Let me fix it. I know the way. And it's not, oh, you follow this formula, this is all the answers. What my answers look like or for me, what her answers look like are for her. And it's different for each and every person. So when I say, oh, chew sugarless gum, for the next person, it's like not the same, not the right thing. And it's like, oh, eat only this. And that's not right for them, but it worked for me, So it's just embodying the perspective to understand, not to implement and change your whole path in life. And that's where you start to veer. And then it gets to, whoa, what's my path? What am I supposed to do? And what's the whole goal? And it guides you to that and accepting it in the right form. It'll just direct your life when you fall into flow and chew sugarless gum.
Let's just talk about, I don't fit into a lot of moldings. Oh my God. So you're a comedian, Dylan.
He's very funny.
You're funny.
Very, very funny.
But do you make fun of yourself to make people laugh? It seems like it. You're one of those. So this one.
I'm the butt of all my jokes.
No, it's funny that he says that because that's what people do. They come to me looking for answers. I'm like, I don't have your answers. What do you want? I'm not God, number one. I'm God in motion. I understand that me and God are one. Okay, but I am not God and I don't have your answers. I'm sorry. I have tons of questions. I have a lot of wisdom. I have a lot of guidance. I have a lot of understanding in different principles and practices, but that doesn't mean that I have your answer.
It's frustrating when you've worked all day to find the question to ask. And then finally you ask the question and then you don't have the answer. You just have another question.
Yep.
And then it's just like, oh, okay, great. I'm not going to have a nervous breakdown. And then
hey, Vinny,
going in here, finding the answer.
Yes.
Oh, yesterday and
Good morning,
today,
Vinny.
night and day difference.
Andrea.
For myself. I was just like, what do I do? And today I'm like, okay, now I know. I found it myself because no one else could tell me. No one else could tell me the answer. I had to find the answer myself for me.
Exactly. So when you do this, when you find the answer for yourself, now you can hold yourself accountable to that answer. Because literally, here's what the difference is between a facilitator, like a coach or someone who's taking on a student or a pupil compared to a therapist, right? Therapists will give you answers. Well, you should do this and you should try this and you should do this and da-da-da-da-da. And according to this, and I think they facilitate some questions, but in coaching, we have zero answers and all of it is just questions, literally questions, but powerful questions that facilitate and ignite a shift and transformation within the individual to take it on for themselves. And once the question's asked, there's no going back.
Yeah.
You can't go back. You can't turn it off.
My experience with the therapy and like psychologists and psychiatrists or whatever and therapists and stuff like that, where they enabled emotions. I didn't experience a lot of answers from them. I went there wanting to feel like my behavior was right. I wanted someone on my side that was outside perspective. Like, oh yeah, I can see that. You're right. That's what I want. But what I got was an emotional enablement. And they were like, you're allowed to feel this way, but this circumstance it's not right or wrong. It's just circumstance, and they made me understand that it was an aspect of my perfectionism that I was trying to control these minute details of certain circumstances, and I couldn't. So it was through the perfection that I wanted everything to be perfect and was failing and was suffering at achieving my own unachievable aspect of perfection, because I would always been able to find something, something else. Then finding out that, it's my perfectionism that's actually expecting answers. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a logic. It's if this, then that, if that, then this. And it's like when you try to put these formulas into certain things, you don't get answers. You don't get, you know what I mean? You get confusion. So you're like, oh, it's this. Okay. And then you start going, and then it's just like you crash and burn because you're experiencing it in a different heart than you're supposed to embody it. You know, for me, that's what it was.
Yeah. And the perfectionism is that there is no perfection here. There's only balance. You can only balance things. You can't perfect them. That's the duality. You were seeking perfection perhaps in our spiritual journey, and that's why we continue to go along the journey, but never do we reach perfection. There's not in this space, everything's perfectly perfect the way it is, yes, but in the perfection of saying I want the whole to be a constant whole and the peace and harmony to be there, unless you're totally disconnecting from this matrix and going into the woods, that's not how it operates. It operates in even if you were in the woods, they're still transmuting the energy.
You still got to process.
You're still processing, and you're still learning to balance the scales, because that's really what it is. It's more about the balance than it is the perfection. And understanding that, I know, because I was a perfectionist too, and I drove myself crazy to the point of like OCD. But I recognized when I was really young that was the cause of all my suffering, was that I was wanting things to be so perfect. And I said, no, I can't keep doing this, or I'm going to drive my own self crazy. So I had to learn to let go. So the surrender, the let go, the drop into the flow will lead you where you should go. And then you take that drive, that energy, and you drive it forward in, focusing on what it is that you want to do. But getting to what you truly desire and truly want to do in this world, the clarity is, it takes time to drill down to find out what is that one thing. Like for me, spirit and coffee is the thing for me.
Yeah.
It is the thing for me. I've been doing it for literally 3 years is going to be coming up soon. 3 years of doing spirit and coffee, because it is the thing that God said, you will do this. And it became the driver for me. It'll expand into something else when God says it expands into something else, and I let it be. But again, when you tap into that thing, that essence, that one thing, you're like, what is my purpose? Who am I? Why am I here? How am I experiencing this? Who am I at the macrocosm, at the microcosm? How do I embody both of those? It's all those bigger questions. Those are all questions. The answer is going to be vastly different for every single person.
It's definitely refinement. I
like that word.
Understood that, hey, you can do this and stay right here, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. And you can find comfort in this zone eventually. But if you want to get here, you have to go through this. And I want to go here. But the comfort of this, though. So
I didn't say the word that way.
when you take a piece, and this is an example my grandmother gave me. When you're making a sword, when you're making a fine sword, a refined sword, you constantly are in the hot of the fire, and you're constantly under this constant sledge of remolding what your entire everything is. When you're in this type of refinement, or any stage of refinement, it's all fine-tuning how, what's the right word?
Molded?
How good you could be. It's refining these old ways to make them serve your purpose. Taking an old sword and putting it back into the kiln or back into the forge and getting it red hot again and rehammering it all the way out and then sharpening it again, it makes it brand new.
Okay, so I love that you're using fire and you're using the sword. So in alchemy, those are two very, we'll end here. It's a very good thing. Fire being divine will, the will of God, your divine will, the fire that burns within your belly, okay, that allows us to stepping fully into purpose.
Yeah.
Yes, Tiffany. Good morning, Tiffany. I didn't see you on here. If I don't say good morning, just say good morning. But the refinement, which is the fire itself is the divine will. And if our fire is off in any kind of way, it can sway us into the pits of hell, or it can be used for the divine will of God to illuminate your soul and the souls of others. Okay, so we have the fire, which I like. Then we have the sword. The sword is the refinement of communication, how we speak. Now, they get pissed at me. It's funny because you do it too, so I'm just going to throw you under the bus real quick. So these ones get mad at me, and these ones, I mean the Padawan. We're all Padawan, of course, but these Padawan get mad at me because of the refinement of language. Like, I'm always like, well, wait, did you mean this? Did you mean that? What do you mean by this? You're saying this or this? It's like, can you just like stop? And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to get clear on what you're trying to tell me. I just need clarity so that I understand. Because with the clearer that I am, I know how to approach you. But the more confused I am, I don't. Then what good is it, right? It needs to be refined. So I do that with language. Now, people will throw that back at me, and I love it. I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm trying to say this. I don't get upset. It doesn't upset me. Why? Because I want to be as clear as possible. The clearer that you are in your speech or your sword, the sharper that the sword is, the easier the cut. It's just easy. But if it's not, it's kind of like you're trying to drill through something and you can't really get there. So in the articulation and communication, right, when we refine our words and understand what we're experiencing and put words on it, we start to create what we want to see in this world faster. We manifest faster through that. That's what happens. That's where the refinement comes in, is that the manifestation of what we're trying to create starts to show up a little bit faster because we're communicating clear of what our needs are, what we want, what's going on with us, how, and then what shows up is people say, oh, okay, now I get it now. And things start to go like this and shape. Okay. So you're fine tuning that. Now, the thing that I said I was going to call them under the bus is they get mad at me, but this one, I call you this and that, and
this thing,
the it here, does the same thing to the Padawan. So my niece Deja, you're constantly correcting her on her speech, and it's funny, you don't even realize that you're doing
it.
So we are all doing it to each other to be able to refine what you said, which is the sword, in order to create our divine birthright very easily. We need the fire. Now, the fire, that's a whole other thing. If the fire is off and you're molding this way, like this, the distortion of the fire, no good. You want the fire to be focused and intentional.
It hurts.
Focused.
Fire hurts.
And intentional. I like your grandma. Focus. And intentional. That's the sacred masculine. Focused and intentional. Okay. And then the masculine speaks. Focused and intentional. The will comes, speaks. Okay. Makes sense. I'm glad it makes sense to you. Yeah. Thank you for the feedback. So again, the communication is thing. So I'm going to say, masters, experience your experience, communicate your experience with the intentions of others getting it, have what you have, and be responsible for everything and live by mastery. That's it. If you do that process over and 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 over, you will start to master yourself. You're not mastering other people. We're not masters over people. We're mastering ourselves. And as you master yourself, you start to then see the world around you start to unfold in ways that you had no idea it would unfold.
Your vibration changes, your resonance changes when you adapt these certain higher frequency types of things. When you have a thought that's sad, it's a low frequency vibration. And when you transmute that and change that into a high frequency, you resonate different. You vibrate at a different frequency. Therefore, the law of attraction can meet what your aspect is and acceptance of that and
Embrace it. Yeah. Yay!
It changes your whole vibration.
Yeah, and the people around you and the people that want to be around you.
It was a good show.
So there you have it there. And next time we're going to talk about the real stuff, like what's happening between us that facilitated all of this stuff. Yes, we are.
I'm going to be sick that day.
No, he's not going to be sick. He's going to tell you guys because that's the way it works around here.
That's how it works. That's how the work works.
I know the
You're
work
trying to get to where I'm going. This is how it works.
There's
Express vulnerability and uncomfortable situations.
There's nowhere to go. I don't think he gets that. Just kidding. Okay, so now he's like, what? You just ruined it.
Gotta go.
Okay, Peter Paul. All right, so there you have it. I love you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
I think it's Thursday, so tomorrow's Friday. So yay! And then we get the week, and eventually we'll figure out this live video stuff, and hopefully stream all at once. And I don't know what's
Today's a
going
learning
on.
day for me to understand all of the studio stuff.
Where are you going? He's going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at it's the bestie.
Loco en la cabeza.
Bestie.
Hello, Patrick.
I just can't wait for you and Baldonado to meet each other.
That'll be
So
fun.
there you go.
I can't, yeah.
This whole thing is crazy.
I'm free today.
So there you go. I know. So, but we're gonna go now, bestie. So I love you guys. Have the most blessed day ever.
Thank you for watching.
Remember, refine. I like that. Fine tune it and refine and sharpen that knife. Okay. Articulation, words, logos, how we communicate, how we spell out what we're doing.
The living word.
Okay. Awesome. So love you.
Love you. Thank you, guys. Please like and subscribe. We are on all aspects of social media now. YouTube,
We're on Amazon too.
Podbean, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and a couple other little things.
And you think I'd have a big audience, and I don't.
We're trying.
I have like 3 people, but
we got
it's okay.
the new camera.
It makes
and
sense.
the microphone and all the other stuff.
Remember, God knows when you need the words of
getting
whatever's going on here, right? let the Wookiee win. You're funny. Okay, so you want to press the finish button?
Yep.
Yeah.
See
Bye.
ya.
Have a
Bye.
good day. Love you. Mean it.
Love you.
I think.